Yesterday, Chris visited me here at my office in Berlin from the United States. Chris has lots of experiences with Amazon. He worked for Amazon in Seattle, done his undergrad in Berkeley, and is consulting lots of businesses how to grow and how to leverage their business successfully on Amazon. So if you like to see new opportunities, if you like to see how Amazon is helping your business and can help your business, how actually to take care of it, what are the tips and tricks of selling on Amazon, just enjoy the talk now. And if you like this video, give this video a thumb up and subscribe to the channel. And now, enjoy the talk. Today I'm sitting here together with Chris. Chris is an e-commerce expert and worked many years for Amazon in Seattle. And your main focus is Amazon and e-commerce. So today we will talk about how businesses can leverage and take the power of Amazon on selling on Amazon. We will talk about the benefits of using Amazon, pros and cons, and as well like some tricks and what to take really care of.
Sure.
So maybe you
Sounds good.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background with Amazon, and I know as well you are traveling a lot, so you are as well talking on conferences on the Amazon topic. So you're really in the position as well to say, okay, what's going on with Amazon, and as well, is there a good reason to actually sell on Amazon for normal businesses?
Yeah, anyone selling on e-commerce, doing e-commerce that has their own website, or anyone who's ever been interested in selling more than you would in your own shop needs to sell on Amazon probably as soon as they can. It's a huge opportunity. If it's done properly, you can expand your business, you can grow it quite a bit. If you do it in the proper way, Amazon will help you expand it and grow it year over year. Some people doubling, tripling revenue. If it's done in correctly disorganized ways, sloppy, then it becomes more of a problem than a benefit. So it's something to do, but it's something to do very carefully, if that makes sense. And I know, my background is two sides, right? I worked there for many years, evaluating seller accounts performance, enforcing policies, communicating with sellers, people who opened merchant accounts. Since I left Amazon, I've been consulting all of those types of sellers on how my former teams deal with their accounts, look at their accounts. So the internal Amazon team perspective on what they do in the marketplace as sellers, how they deal with each other, how they deal with buyers, how they deal with Amazon itself. It's all very important, and it's kind of its own universe. Amazon's its own ecosystem, and it has to be learned as its own, it's almost like its own country. You have to learn the rules and the policies and the laws whenever you go to a new country. Selling on Amazon is sort of like that. It's not like selling on eBay, which a lot of eBay is sort of open and relaxed and not as aggressive or strict. Amazon's the opposite. It's a highly regulated marketplace, which is strict with aggressive account investigators. For any policy violations, they don't just wave it off, they follow up and they take action against seller accounts quite a bit. So many people in the beginning who start on Amazon read things or see videos or seminars and they think it will be easy, and you wind it up and let it go, and all the work is in the beginning, and then it gets easier as you go. If you've worked there like me, or if you've sold on Amazon for a while, you know that's totally untrue. You need to always be paying attention to the account. You need to be monitoring any potential problems, complaints from buyers, warnings from Amazon, email alerts from Amazon. Sometimes people don't take those seriously, or they don't act quickly on them. And they're just focused on the money, watching the increase in revenue and the increase in orders, because some new sellers see orders double and triple like every other month, and then we're coming into Christmas now. So people are amazed that, I made so much this Christmas, maybe I can make twice that much next Christmas. and I made so much the first 3 months of the year, maybe I can make 5 times that the last. They get focused on that, and they lose sight of proper management of their account.
So what are the general benefits for a normal company which is already selling online, as you were mentioning before, now to do something on Amazon? Because as I see it, okay, I have a normal business, I have my e-commerce, I'm selling on successfully on the websites, let's say. So what is the benefit now for me to go to Amazon? Because out of another perspective, it could be, okay, now I have maybe more work. I have as well, I give part of the control outside to other persons.
Sure.
So what would you say is the benefit? And
it's for reaching as many buyers as you could possibly imagine. I mean, Amazon's growing and eating a lot of e-commerce all on its own, and you don't get the same access to buyers as you do on eBay or Walmart.com or some of these other websites, or even your own website. Almost everyone I work with makes most of their revenue on Amazon because it's always growing and you have access to as many people globally as possible. I mean, many people are selling in the US, UK, Germany, some in China. Some will be selling in Australia next year when Australia opens. I mean, it's sort of limitless potential. It depends on if you want to grow your business. If you're okay doing the same amount of money year over year on your website and you don't want the additional responsibility, then maybe you could stay small. But if you're interested in growing, Amazon's the quickest and most effective way to grow an e-commerce business. Selling on Amazon, being a marketplace seller. Yeah.
so it's a big advantage. What you're saying is, okay, they have a lot of customers, which are already on Amazon, but this, on the other hand, then is more like it's its own search engine for itself, because then you need to rank as well inside of Amazon.
Yes. There are a lot of, I mean, now people search for products. Anyone who's shopping searches more on Amazon than they do on Google, and it took years for that to happen. But now that has happened, and Amazon's taken over the majority of search for products. So if you're selling something and you want to attract shoppers, especially in the US, people do the search on Amazon first. They don't do Google or some other search engine. So that's the beginning of the shopping process. So if you're losing shoppers at the very beginning, you're hoping that they'll come back to you sometime later if they can't find what they want on Amazon. If they don't buy on Amazon, will they find you some other way? As time goes on, more and more, the answer to that is no. They buy what they need on Amazon. They also get better prices for it on Amazon than they do on some of these other websites. So Amazon is reliably the place people go to spend the least and find what they want the fastest, and also have selection, right? The reason Amazon created the marketplace to begin with was to have every product, not just the ones they had for Amazon retail, to have every product that exists be sold on the site.
And then starting like a new Amazon, seeing Amazon then as a new channel and starting something new on Amazon, what would be the 5 key points to take care of when starting a successful account on Amazon? So,
and there's a difference between resellers and private label, right? Private label sellers manufacture their own products. They have a certain set of concerns, and then resellers are a little bit different. So you have to kind of make that key decision in the beginning. Are you a reseller? Are you private label? Or are you both? Are you trying to diversify? Most reseller clients that I have now, I encourage them to do some private label, because reselling is getting harder and harder on Amazon. I mean, the first thing is, if you are a reseller, make sure you have reliable supply chain distribution and documentation, because if buyers ever complain about the authenticity of the products, if you ever have to prove where you get them, you don't want to have invoices from, say, a middleman. You want to be able to prove that you're buying from an authorized reseller, or you're buying directly from the brand. To clarify, so reseller means, okay, I just have a product, I get it from some factory, you're selling brands. So I basically just sell this product, and with private label, I have my own company, which producing my own product, and then I'm selling this over Amazon. Correct. You have your own, ideally your own trademarked, registered brand. You are the brand. Resellers, they don't have their own brands. They're selling other brands. The problem is now with Amazon, some of the brands don't want those resellers to sell their products on Amazon, and those resellers don't have written agreements to do it. So sometimes the brands contact Amazon trying to get those resellers moved off the listings. So private label sellers, of course, are selling their own products, so there's no brand to chase you off a listing to keep you from selling something if you are the brand. But you still need to invest in things like an intellectual property or a trademark attorney in case you are accused of violating anyone else's trademark for your product. So for a new seller, you have to do all this legal homework before you start manufacturing products. You also want to make sure you're in the right category, because some categories are harder than others. So some people just start making and selling products because they see like a seminar or a video, but everyone else is selling the same thing. They read an article that this particular item is cheap to make, and you make a good margin sale on Amazon, so then everyone rushes to that. So you don't want to be like a trendy. You want to know what a long-term business goal is, not just a short-term, what to sell for Christmas, because Christmas is over quickly. And you need to know how Amazon buyers receive products. Do they like them? Do they complain about them? Some people start making items in China and it's cost effective for them to make them, and they think that they're popular products, and they don't think in terms of item quality complaints, because Amazon has a whole team dedicated to this called product quality. And if buyers complain about the quality of your items, they start sending you warnings, or they start restricting your ability to sell certain products. You might have FBA full of this inventory, but unless you appeal a certain way, a lot of what I do is helping people with the appeals, right? They don't know what to say, they're not sure what happens. They tell me maybe I got a warning for something, but I wasn't sure what to do, so we ignored it, or we stopped selling it for a short time, but then we tried to go back to selling it. They're not really sure how to appeal or get their listing back. But the bottom line is, before you start selling, you want to know, are these products that people tend to complain about? Are they going to attract item quality complaints? Will you lose that listing? If you have to pull everything out of FBA, there's a cost associated with that. You might not even be able to sell those on Amazon if Amazon doesn't give you your listing back. So as a private label seller, you also have to be careful where you're sourcing things, who your manufacturer is, right? You have to make sure your manufacturer is reliable, because if you're not consistently sampling the inventory that your manufacturer makes and ships directly to Amazon, they might swap out materials, right? They might start manufacturing the item with cheaper materials, for instance, if they think you're not watching. And this does happen. There are stories about this. So there's a lot of homework and research that has to be done. And people who take shortcuts tend to pay in other ways, right? Get in trouble.
So you were just mentioning FBA. Can you maybe clarify, what
right,
FBA
fulfilled
is?
by Amazon, giving your inventory to Amazon. They are the ones fulfilling your order for you. You're not, fulfilled by a merchant is you take the order and you're shipping it out, and you're responsible for that item making it to the buyer. Most, if not all, of my clients are pretty much doing all FBA. It makes sense for Amazon to be the logistics arm and the delivery arm of your business, because they're better at delivering product than anybody. You have to pay fees for fulfillment by Amazon, and you have to ship your inventory there. Obviously inventory can be moved around the United States. Let's say you're a German seller selling in the United States. There are things to think about, like the new issue of sales tax. I'm not sure if I told you about this yet, but even if you're based overseas, you have to be worried about individual U.S. states and how you collect sales tax, because right now Amazon makes that your responsibility. There's a big controversy over this right now in the U.S. because a lot of sellers don't think it's their responsibility to collect sales tax for sales in the U.S.
But out of the perspective of somebody who has their own online shop, they will collect anyway the sales tax, I think. And for this person, who has already e-commerce online store, and which is running successfully, and they can scale it as well. They scale it with like SEO, like other SEA, like Google, like Facebook ads, and so on. And for this person now, they're starting now on Amazon. They do what you said.
Yeah.
They take care of the product. Most of the time, maybe they have already like a real working product. And now this person, what should they take care of? And should they do this FBA thing? Or should they do it on their own? there are probably advantages to FBA because you have the prime delivery and so on, but what should these people do?
Well, so aside from seller fulfilled prime is if you have the ability to do it, Amazon has to give you the chance to do seller fulfilled prime. But putting that to the side, most people should start with FBA because then you don't have to worry about order fulfillment. Amazon's worried about that. And if the item doesn't get to the buyer, you're not responsible for that. Amazon is, right? So I think that makes life easier because you're not worried about that. You're more worried about the product. And to answer your question about what do you do in the beginning, I mean, make sure your listings are good. Your titles aren't too long. The titles are clear. You want to make sure that the detail page has, accurate and interesting content about the product so people won't read it and think, I don't know what this is, this doesn't answer my questions, and then move on to another listing. So the titles, the images have to be compliant, the images have to be informative, and there's different examples that you can go over, some people just do their own pictures, but they don't compare to what pictures are supposed to look like. They just do it themselves. I think there's a natural tendency for people not to hire out different kinds of people to help them do these things. They do it themselves, but sometimes the quality isn't there. So you don't sell as much in the beginning if the listing quality is poor or if the images are poor. Those are people, I think, who rush the process of going onto Amazon because they're thinking about the money and how much they can sell. So, you want to start slowly. You grow slowly. You don't do too much too soon with Amazon because they also have to build up some trust in your account and your ability to do it. They need to believe that you understand how Amazon works and what the rules are, right? When I was working there, I saw several people start and make many mistakes in the beginning. So we were just sending them different kinds of warnings and maybe taking away a listing or temporarily stopping them from selling if they were selling too much and they didn't have enough product, for example, if they were having stockouts, those types of things. So you want to do it gradually after educating yourself about what to do in the beginning. Typically I work with established sellers, people who have been on the platform for a few years. They're already established in one marketplace and they're looking for other marketplaces, right? They've succeeded in the US, they want to sell in the UK. Or they succeed in Germany and they want to sell in the US. I meet a lot of German sellers who want to sell in the US, the biggest market. But there are ways of doing it, smart ways of doing it, and then there are sort of understandable mistakes, but then there are big mistakes and you have to avoid the big ones. Yeah.
And out of your opinion, is there advantage to as well deliver on your own if you have a good delivery system in place already? Because if you are like an e-commerce store usually and you ship, let's say, within one day and you have already all this great things in place, is there actually an advantage to do it or is there a disadvantage to do it? What would you say? So
there are advantages and one of the disadvantages of doing it all yourself, if you're not an FBA seller, you're less likely to win the buy box. So, the buy box, you're more likely, if you win the buy box, you're more likely to get that sale. So you're hurting yourself on the sales side a little bit if you only do your own fulfillment. Also, you're responsible for all delivery, all logistics, all order fulfillment. So if anything goes wrong, you'll get negative feedback for a late delivery or a non-delivery. Obviously, you can't get too many negative feedbacks. It might hurt your performance metrics. Your performance metrics are held at a very high standard. And every e-commerce website will be like that, right? eBay might have it a bit more relaxed, but Amazon has the toughest standards. So you have to meet those metrics. Amazon doesn't care how you fulfill as long as you meet performance metrics. As long as you can reliably deliver, you don't get complaints, you don't get too many, they call it where's my stuff messages, right? Buyers who are looking for their items that miss the deadline. It depends on what the delivery is like in your country, right? If you're using like the National Postal Service or using FedEx, are you paying more money for the more reliable delivery? If not, you're kind of risking it. You're gambling a little bit. So as long as you can fulfill orders without any problems, you're safe to try that. But there are advantages to being an FBA because you have a deeper relationship with Amazon if you're paying fees for FBA, and you're more likely to win the buy box. So there's a cost associated with not doing FBA. And
what are your tips for not going out of stock if you say, okay, in the beginning now you start a new product. Mm-hmm. With new, you have already your own products from your own e-commerce store,
right,
or you're starting a new product in general. And how do you manage to not go out of stock if Amazon is such a great place where you can attract so many buyers? So how do you quickly figure this out?
Well, I mean, most people use software to figure that out, or, like they automate that process, because predicting that yourself can be quite difficult. There are still people out there juggling spreadsheets and looking at this month last year versus this month this year. Most people are doing order fulfillment, software, and they can kind of predict. They're using modeling to predict when they're going to get. I mean, when you get low, you can just automatically reorder. Say you're a reseller and you're selling Samsung electronics or something like that. You can automatically reorder from your distributor once you get below a certain threshold, just to make sure you have enough product either in your own warehouse or shipped to FBA. If you're consistently running out of stock of items, it means you're not aware of your selling potential, right? You're losing sales every time you run out of stock of anything. Somebody else on Amazon will make that sale that you missed. So how many times do you really want that to happen? It's better to have more than to have less. So most people are managing that with automation at this point.
Is there any software you would recommend, or is it just general?
I don't have any off the top of my head right now, but I mean, I can provide your meetup group people with some ideas, because the time for managing things manually, like also loading listings. I mean, I don't know if you've worked with flat files or if you've loaded listings with flat files before as a seller. Some people are still loading listings manually. I mean, you really have to automate that process at this point, because anything done manually, you're more likely to make a mistake, and then that just creates headaches and problems. Sometimes people make mistakes where the price is way too low for their product and they sell a lot of them, right? Instead of 100 euros, it sells for 10 euros. And then you have to think about, well, can I cancel all these orders because it was accidentally low? Not really. You should probably honor the sale for the lower price, because if you cancel several orders, then your metric for order cancellation goes way up. So, I mean, automation, obviously you have to keep an eye on it, but it's not the same as doing everything the old-fashioned way. Amazon's not really the marketplace to do things the old-fashioned way. Yeah.
Then you mentioned to me earlier when we were discussing the Amazon topic that there are a lot of things to take care of, that the account should not be blocked. So especially I think this is interesting for people who are starting out to as well already thinking about, okay, what to do right, or how to do that they are not blocked out, and what to do when they are blocked out. Any tips on this?
I mean, learn the policy. I would say the policy enforcement teams are the strictest ones and the most likely to result in a suspension. So learn all the policies you can before you start. I think some sellers start the account and learn some policies along the way, or they get a warning and that's their starting point for learning. For a policy violation, they get a warning. And when I was working at Amazon, I used to send policy warnings, and the reply would be, "We're sorry, we didn't know that was the policy." You should never say that. You should always know what the policy is before, unless it's a brand new policy and you're warned on the first day. Anything except for that, you should already know. And if you have a staff or a team around you, have like a designated compliance person whose job it is to always follow up and understand and educate themselves on new policy changes, because Amazon's a very unforgiving place. They will expect you to know all these things. Even when they don't always communicate it well, they still expect it's your job to understand what the listing policies are, what the policies are around certain items. Some people selling in the US are invited to sell in the UK by an Amazon associate, like a business development person. But that person doesn't necessarily know if all of your products can go over to the UK and be sold legally or be sold within Amazon policies. They don't really know that area. So it's up to you to know that. It sounds strange because somebody comes to you from Amazon and says, "We want you to sell in the UK, we want you to sell in Germany," and they encourage you, but they don't tell you about all the homework you have to do before you do it. So some people in the US are selling in the UK, maybe dietary supplements, for example, but there were ingredients that are okay to sell in the US, but not okay in England. And so they're getting warnings, or they're getting account suspensions. So I mean, since I'm in Germany talking about international selling a lot, and I talk about it almost every country I go to that has Amazon now, I focus on, know the local laws in each marketplace that you're in. You probably know your own marketplace pretty well. Like you said, whether or not you have your own e-commerce website in Germany, you probably know the German laws pretty well if you're already doing business in Germany. Then it's just a matter of learning Amazon's policies. But the laws you know. If you go start selling in the UK and you haven't been shipping to the UK from your e-commerce site here in Berlin, you need to learn those laws. You need to learn Amazon policies. I mean, there is some work in the beginning, but you have to maintain that knowledge and build on that knowledge as you go along. So I'd recommend that people get a compliance expert within their company. You might also, as I said, need like an attorney for trademark issues, for intellectual property issues. Some people who are trademark registered are accused by another party who wants to sell that product. They're accused of being the trademark violation themselves, which of course, if you own a trademark, you can't be accused of violating your own trademark, but you still might be accused of it. And Amazon might still send you a warning for it. You need a lawyer to help you deal with situations like that. If anyone accuses you of stealing their patent and creating a product that you sold on Amazon, you might have a patent violation warning on Amazon. You need a patent attorney to understand how to defend that, or how to resolve it. If you're guilty of violating that, you have to know how to fix it. So attorneys, and also you need to be aware of what's going on inside Amazon to some extent, because a lot of people don't pay attention to that. They just read Facebook groups or seller forums, and they're not aware of how the internal teams at Amazon view their account. They only know what other sellers say about their experiences, which might not match up to yours. It might be two different things, but you think that it sounds the same, so it is the same. It's good to talk to people or identify who understands how Amazon works inside, which of course I used to work there, so I'm a big advocate of knowing how those teams work, because I've seen how those teams don't work and the mistakes they make inside Amazon. So you don't want to give them the chance to make more mistakes with your account. You want to understand how to communicate with them, right? If they warn you for something, you need to know how to respond. You need to know how to communicate. They might send you a generic warning, right? Something that's not specific. You need to know how to write back to them and get some better information. If they take your listing away, you have to craft an appeal, right? It has to have certain things in it. And a lot of sellers write things that have nothing to do with the situation. And maybe they say negative things about Amazon, they say great things about Amazon, but it has to be very short, it has to be very to the point and direct. It has to be well written. If it's poorly written, they throw it away. If it's off topic, they throw it away. They're doing it very quickly, So I would also recommend that new sellers understand how to communicate before they start getting performance notifications or warnings, because then you're sort of anxious, right? You're sort of scrambling, like, what do we do? How did this happen? What do we say? And the result, the product that they come out with, they send a bad email, and it doesn't help. It just makes it worse. Every time you send a badly written email that doesn't fit the situation, it just makes things worse. So it's better to be prepared before that ever happens. Understand how Amazon sort of thinks and how they look at your account and how they view certain kinds of problems with accounts before you start writing emails back.
This sounds, for me now, it's also, this sounds like a lot of policies and a lot of work actually in the beginning. So it's not, so you would not recommend, okay, let's start figuring out everything step by step, figuring out it later. So you would really recommend, okay, look, at least at it's the most important policies, make clear about the laws in the countries where you want to sell. So it's not just, okay, send it somewhere and sell it. And then
it used to be, not anymore.
and then grow your listing by improving your listing inside of Amazon and leverage actually the whole potential which Amazon has. And this is like they have a lot of buyers who are really eager to buy the product. Are there some specific things and differences between the US and Europe for the sellers if you open an account as a European or as a US person?
Sure. So you mean in terms of things that Europeans get in trouble for more than Americans, or?
I mean, just in particular, what you should take care of, I mean, in general.
Yeah, the one thing I've noticed, I've been working with German sellers in my business for about a year now, I think. I've noticed that, in particular, German sellers, they're kind of afraid of the US because they think it's more aggressive there. They think the pricing is tough to match. And also, I think they're afraid that, they have more competition there, but they're also kind of not taking enough steps ahead of time to kind of prevent things. I think German accounts that I've seen, they're kind of waiting too long for things that already happen, and then you're reacting. You're not proactive enough. The Americans and the UK sellers that I've worked with come to me a bit earlier. They're a bit more proactive in terms of, we're worried about this and we're anxious about this and we have a warning and we want to do something now. And I'm still trying to figure out why that is. I tend to hear more from German sellers after the disaster or after the problem becomes harder to fix or unfixable. And I'm not sure why. I don't think that most of the German sellers that I've talked to have really good contacts in Amazon DE. And for me, I mean, I worked with a lot of those people myself personally, and I know a lot of those people now, even if they've left Amazon, but I know them as friends. So I have a lot of that sort of idea of what happens more often in Germany than in the US or in the UK. So I think it's a little bit of a bubble here. And maybe some only want to sell in Germany and they're not worried about these other markets. But are they aware of everything going on in that bubble? Or are they just sort of hoping that everything's okay and that they don't really need to invest a lot of time or energy or even money in trying to prevent bad things from happening? Because in my experience, I'm hearing more from European sellers only after the bad things have happened. And I think Amazon's the wrong place to have that perspective. You have to kind of look around that corner, anticipate problems by looking at your own account a lot. So for example, if you're getting certain items returned, right, you want to look at your return reasons in Seller Central and figure out if there's a pattern. Is there a method to that? Is there a reason why several buyers are saying the same things about the item? Maybe the listing doesn't match appropriately, right? Maybe the detail page isn't accurate. Maybe the item is not staying intact. Maybe it's damaged too often, so they're reporting it as defective. Whatever it is, that's something you want to jump on now before Amazon takes the listing away. Because if they take the listing away and you can't successfully appeal, you have all this product in FBA, you can't sell it. You just have to get it back. Or you have to sell it on another marketplace. So those are things to think about before the trouble comes. Because if you wait too long, or you hope, or you wish things go away, then you might wind up, suspended, then you're not selling anything. It's not just one listing or two. Your entire Amazon business is down.
So to sum it up,
yeah,
they need to know the policies on the one hand, but as well they need to be quick and they
take
actions
right
directly.
Right, and instead of just saying, oh, I got a warning for this product, well, I'll just delete the listing and I won't sell it anymore. That's not enough. You need to know why you got the warning. You have to know why you're in trouble. Eventually, if you get enough warnings and you haven't taken any action, too many warnings, suspension.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
And see you soon.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.